people who showed interest by way of submission of EOIs in that case. And even today we have none who have really come forward with a reasonable quotation to take over the company. Last we saw that some company has come up where all the bids have got opened, and that is where the question is that why in IBC, in the name of maximization of value, we are not respecting the timelines, we are not respecting the process. So it so happens that when the bid opens, the price is open, and somebody then just walks on the red carpet and say, hello, hello, I have the green note in my hand and now I want to give you this plus. And the COC is actually looking at it. Though we understand that it's the public money which comes back, but are we not going to supposed to actually pay heed to the process? What's your take?
See, let's see everything from a two perspective. Of course, once the moderator has started by saying, and Ms. Acae has also stated, that code is at an nascent stage. Let's see that why there has been a delay. Firstly, we have seen that there has been a judicial pronouncement. We are all still grasping the provisions of law. There has been a judgment from Innoventing to latest Vidarbha clarification, where the law is still being developed. What I personally feel is that once the law is developed, automation will set in and the process will be smoother. But till the time there has been a problem, see, most of, like we just discussed about Reliance, or for that matter, let's take an example of JP infrastructure, where it has taken 6 years to complete the resolution process. NOLSAR has taken several years of process, and so is Educom. But if we start analyzing the reasons for delay, what we'll see is most of the matters have been pending before the adjudicating authority, before the appellate tribunal, or before the Supreme Court, where they are still pronouncing the law on these provisions. So till the time law is clear, that's, yes, definitely there are bound to be some delay, that's number one. Number two, once we even otherwise see, we discuss about the stakeholders' role. See, there are several stakeholders once we start understanding the concept of stakeholder, but in the resolution process, basically the stakeholders involved are resolution professional, COC, the adjudicating authority apart from IBBI. So, whenever there is a delay, we immediately start blaming the resolution professional. But I'll tell you practically what we have seen for years to come, and Mr. Subramanian may not agree for that. But most of the time, COC is not able to conduct the resolution process properly. Resolution professional every now and then go to COC expecting some kind of guidance from them, but COC has not been able to take the decision immediately. Sometimes even the officers who are attending the COC meeting are not senior enough to take the decision. And sometimes even there are several matters what we have been seeing is that COC is not releasing the fund where the resolution professional needs the fund. There are 4 EIRC process which I am currently handling. Resolution professional doesn't even have a single penny to spend on the resolution process. Every time they are going before the COC, and COC saying, sorry, we are not there to grant you the interim finance, and resolution professional is running pillar to post, filing an application before the adjudicating authority, filing appeals, and those things are not happening. So every time to blame resolution professional may not be correct. COC is equally participant in that, and most importantly, as far as RP is concerned, there is an IBBI, but as far as COC is concerned, there is nobody who can regulate their conduct also. So that is required to be seen. In addition to that, learner adjudicating authority, as Mr. Subramanian has pointed out, rightly so. See, at this moment, adjudicating authority, because of lack of infrastructure, they have not been able to take the decision. But yes, the procedure for natural justice is also required to be completed, and for that matter, reasons are to be, the hearing should be given to the corporate athletes. So we have seen several matters with DT education and other matters where limitation has been a serious issue. That has also been one of the reasons where the moment you grant the opportunity to corporate data, they have been able to take the legal defenses that cannot be taken away from them. So all these are reasons which are contributing to the delay, but with the passage of time, I personally expect that this will be over soon, and more and more people are getting educated more and more, and this delay can be controlled.
Thank you, Sandeep, for your take. In the process, I have also felt, Sir Balas sir, I really want your precious input. We've seen when the bankers really come for the meeting, they are not of the level which IBBI by their circulars have mentioned. And we've also seen that when the officers shift to another department as a lateral movement or as a promotion, they are not able to really give or impart the file properly to their juniors. So what happens is when the new officer comes, they are totally blank. They are a clean slate. And then it's really hard to grapple with teaching them what has happened in the past in the process. And they start looking at the entire case from their own lenses, which is actually not required because your predecessor has done maybe almost lifting the wheel. Why is it then? Why is it that the bankers are really not taking a hard step to make sure that the continuation is maintained? And sir, believe me, as a lawyer and as an insolvency professional, I have seen many cases falling flat just because of this.
One thing which, no, I don't think neither we or the advocate had actually made any comments on the RP's role in it. So I'm sure that we have to, right now, as a stakeholder, it is in my interest of not passing the blame to somebody else. So the only thing which I have been raising was what can be done in the court. And that has not been addressed. That why should something which is not related to CRP be admitted in the CRP like a surface action? Why should it be even taken up by the CRP? But that is for the judge to decide. I will not be able to comment on that. And I absolutely agree with you that the law should mandate it that people who attend the COC meeting should be in a power to take a decision that day or at least convey that decision within 3 days or 4 days, limited time. And it's not that we face this problem when, like, I am heading a COC as a lead bank, and then the other banks simply come back and say we will come back after some time, and for months they don't come back. So that problem is there. The second issue is, you have to understand, especially in the public sector banks, people are very afraid of taking a decision which may be questioned later. Suppose if I agree to a resolution process, and later on somebody says this person had a vested interest or there was a conflict of interest and which the banker knew. I may or may not know it. Somebody may say I know it. And the bankers, that is what we feel as a COC, that we are the easiest target for the various investigative agencies. So probably that could be one reason. So if the IBC law also brings in that any decision taken in the COC cannot be questioned for the motive. Not for the decision. Decision can be challenged, but not the motive of the decision to be challenged. If that can be brought in, probably it will give more courage. But yes, I fully agree that people who come to COC, like I am saying, I always say when I meet any of the justice professionals outside the quota, obviously I can't say in the court, that why do you keep adjourning? Maybe two. Then you tell them that whether you are not ready or today the hearing has to be completed and the judgment will be delivered. Can you not say that? Same thing I say, I think that we should also take the responsibility. We can have a 2 COC meeting, 3 COC meeting and come to a conclusion. But that is only the, and again, when it comes to taking a huge haircut, we are always worried, can I not get better, can I not get better? Probably that is one of the reasons we get the resolutions get delayed.
I remember how the story of haircut began. If you recollect, there was a matter of Synergies Dure Automotive Private Limited. I was the RP of that matter, and that was the first case in the country, and it also had the first resolution plan, which got approved at a steep haircut. And Edelweiss was contesting it all and out, and it started talking of that Mamta Benani has given a bald cut. It's not even a haircut. So that's when this haircut and bald cut all began. And then I remember the erstwhile chairperson of IBBI went on to mention that what is it that you can do? It is actually the value that remains in the corporate debtor which decides how much value it will fetch. It is the interplay of the market that defines how much value will come. Have you seen the retail case? It's only giving a return of 3%. Have you seen that? Future retail is only giving a haircut of 97%, which means it's only giving a return, not even a return. a plan of 3%. So that is how it is, and there are no takers. So Balasubramanian sir, I want to just tell you why IBC in fact came to give freedom to the bankers out of the various C's that we have. Because it says that it is an inclusive process. It's a process which is done in broad daylight. It is a process which is driven by the NCLT, which is a quasi-judicial body. In spite of all of this, why is it that we are really trying to find solace with a specific section in the IBC? I don't think these questions really have an answer, because it's only going to come out with behavioral changes which all of us really have to look forward to. Ms. Hakeem, I want to really ask you, you may have listening to PPIRP, that is pre-packaged insolvency resolution process, which is today, by virtue of section 54A to 54P, P for Patna, is open to only MSMEs. And it is saying that when you come to the insolvency court, you can actually decide, pre-package your case and then come to NCLT, which is a lot of work gets done before, and it's like getting the mohar of the Honorable NCLT and things gets fastened. So how well do you resonate with this concept?
Well, on the lighter side, it's a process which will affect my community a lot. So, a process which will, I think it depends. Some people would like, it's what you would call a summary judgment, if I were to give it a civil process equivalent. So it will work for some and it will not work for the others. I believe there are certain matters which may be complex. If today it is at the stage of MSME, that's fine, it's contained in that sphere. But it is suited to a very niche area. But given that its application internationally has been approved and approved with some success, I think it is a model which, parts of which can be defragmented and incorporated in a larger process on a larger spectrum also. So there's good and bad. I don't think one must either put it in a black or white format presently. I think it's something which really needs introspection, it needs a closer application, and it requires a hybrid form of application to other processes. I think it's a step in the direction.
Thank you so much. So for the benefit of our esteemed participants here, let me just tell you that pre-packaged is really coming up with a lot of features which has done well in the other countries, and it has tried to discard which has not really done well there. So let me tell you for the sake of information that this is quite in the model of the UK law for pre-packaged insolvency, and it has taken lessons from France, Germany and Netherlands. So therefore I feel that it's quite a mocktail where it has tried to make sure that everything that has worked well is taken in the Indian law, like we saw in the LLP law also. So Sandeep, I have a question for you, that why is it that in our country, when MSMEs have really got a leeway under section 240A of the IBC, why the bankers are still wary about giving a clean slate to the MSME promoters if it is coming with a haircut which is less than the OTS haircut that they really perceive? Because why are they still fearful? Why is it that they still hold back? Do you think any point of view coming in from your side by way of litigation that they fear?
Ma'am, just to take a step back from this question itself, why we are discussing only about MSME here? If promoter is ready to give more money, why not to take the money from him in other resolution process also? See, of course, I'll come to MSME in this question also, because this is something which needs to be discussed. I have seen several examples where resolution plan is given by a third party, like you rightly pointed out, haircut is there, they are just giving 34% of the total amount, and Mr. Subramanian has also pointed out that this may not be correct, because in the recent paper they are saying last year it was only 13% of the total amount which they were able to recover. So in those scenarios, if promoter is ready to give more money than the market, why not to take that money? Criminal proceeding will still continue if he has siphoned the fund, if he has diverted the funds. You may put several conditions that the management should change. He cannot come into the management. He can only be the shareholder. There may be independent director. All kinds of checks and balances can be there. But why to exclude promoters and giving more money? Because as far as maximization of value is concerned, if promoter is giving, we should take it. So applying the similar principle, I have been, of course, of this view that even in MSME matter, the bankers must be having the same kind of apprehension here, because in pre-package, what we see is the promoter has a larger role to play rather than the creditors, because it is proposed by the promoters and ultimately creditors give approval to that, and sir has rightly pointed out, all the bankers at this moment has some kind of apprehension that if they approve this plan along with the promoters, there should not be any inquiry or investigation tomorrow against them that why they have agreed for this haircut, because then the resolution process is much more transparent. Pre-package is not that much transparent. So all those questions still required to be answered before even coming to this stage where bankers should open-heartedly support pre-package insolvency.
So you're saying something? Yes, please.
I agree with what he says about one part, that when we are talking about revival, the best person to revive a company is a person who has been running it. And after the IBC process, resolution process is run through, and if the promoter comes back, original promoter comes with a better offer, why should we not accept it as something which, although the IBC does not permit the existing promoter except for MSME to participate in the thing. So I fully agree with my esteemed colleague that this is a very important factor which IBC should consider. Okay, we can run the IBC resolution process. Once the resolution process is run through and the promoter is willing to come up with a better offer, why not? So that is one part. And yes, for as long as the current laws are there regarding investigation, the public sector banks will be always afraid of taking a decision which does not have a coverage of say IBC, or earlier it used to be CDR. So unless we have a coverage, we always are afraid of taking a decision which can be questioned on a later date.
I think that's the reason why the law has come forward and said that it's okay if we are not able to resolve the company as a whole, we can also strip off by its assets and see a resolution of its assets in the IBC CIP proceedings itself. Let's see how it unfolds itself, but that law is already dawned on us and we are also putting it to work. I really want to ask Ms. Hakim that an honorable judge gives his judgment as per his volume of mind, art, his state of mind at that point in time, etc. And sometimes we see that a ratio decidendum which has already found a place in law books also is overturned or really upturned. It really creates a lot of ripples in the space that we work in, because nobody is sure. Nobody is wanting to go beyond the law books, even it is coming by the Honorable Apex Court's judgment, or maybe even the High Court's judgment or NCLAT judgment, because just we don't know that it's going to overturn any moment. For example, Vidarbha judgment, we are only seeing a concept. Gentlemen and ladies here, I must tell you, if you read the judgment for the case here, infrastructure space, the EPC company that we have in our city, if you read that case, it talks about transient CD. It says, and please listen, it's very interesting. You know that Simplex infrastructure has not been admitted, right? Vidarbha was the one on which it was fought, and the judgment said that EPC company cannot get resolved in such a manner. For an EPC company, it's very important that since they have some receivables, if those receivables come, then it is best resolved that way. And it actually did not admit that company into insolvency in spite of having all the papers in place to show a debt, to show a default. NESL sir is here, he would maintain and keep on saying that when there is an entry in NESL, Section 7 application should be just a kind of a formality and it should get admitted at the first instance because it has an entry in the NESL. But we are seldom seeing that really. So the point we are trying to ask is something which is a settled thing also gets unsettled. I'm sure this is where the crux lies. How do you look at it as a lawyer?
I think the larger question which you are trying to raise is the issue of interpretation, which is constantly arising when it comes to implementation of the code. This is a feature of any new legislation. I would, and to the extent that it's not only in litigation, it's also permeating into the working of the RP. Decisions taken by the disciplinary committee, if you have noticed of late, are also interpreting of the regulations. So to take your question forward, I think maybe the board can consider doing what SEBI did in the early days of the capital markets. In exercise of its regulatory powers, SEBI had come up with the informal guidance scheme of 2003, where any stakeholder in the capital market could write to SEBI and still can, or what is known as interpretive letters. So if there is an RP or there is any stakeholder for that matter who has a question about a regulation, you write a letter and then you receive an interpretation of that regulation from the regulator. So whether it is your decision, whether it is the COC, whether it is anybody practicing as part of the process, then cites that letter as the reason for your decision or for your action. I think that would be a great step forward in clearing a lot of grey areas during the implementation of the resolution process. Similarly, the Competition Commission of India has something called a pre-filing consultative process, where again a stakeholder can, prior to the process, write to the Competition Commission saying this is the merger, this is the acquisition we are intending, will it fall foul of any of your provisions or not? So you have a yes or no right at the beginning of the process, you're not stumbling along the way and you're not inviting penal action. That's as far as the processual part is concerned. As far as what happens in court, yes, again it is new law, you will have judgments going left, right and center. It is the law of precedent is there, a coordinate bench ought to be guided and bound, as you know yourself as a lawyer, by decisions rendered by a coordinate bench or by a higher court. But again, I think this will settle in time. You have to understand that when it comes to comparing it with other fields of legislation, there is years and decades and centuries in some cases of well-settled law. So there's very little room for going wrong unless you're evolving a new concept of law. This is unfortunately the plagues of a new legislation, but I'm certain that in time and with intelligent and responsible stakeholders, fantastic practitioners like Mr. Bajaj over here and yourself, I think the road ahead will be better than what it is now.
I'm sure Mr. Gadkari is making our life easier by the kind of roads that he's building in the country. We are really seeing a lot of stardom coming to the country because of fuel costs going down, because of input costs going down, because of the roads. And I'm sure for insolvency professionals and IBC, the bumpy roads will no more be really that bumpy that we see today. With that hope, let me ask Sandeep, because he's also an arbitrator, he works a lot of his time he gives in mediation. Sandeep, how important do you think is advanced ruling, as ma'am rightly pointed out, in a way, that advanced ruling, and how do you feel mediation can really play a role, an active role in insolvency to bring down the timelines? And be honest, don't be an advocate.
I have always been critical of few aspects. I have never missed the word to speak on those topics. In fact, when ICAI came up with this mediation concept, actually, they came up with a paper where they also proposed this, whether this kind of amendment can be there. At that time also, I was of the view that when we discuss about IBC, this is a concept of debt and default. So where there is a debt and default, where is the question of mediation? Mediation is to settle the disputes. If there is a dispute, there is no IBC. What we have seen, not only in respect of Section 9 operational creditors, if there is a dispute, in any case those petitions get dismissed. If Section 7 is there, are we discussing that the bankers are free to mediate with the promoter and settle the matter, then the senior mechanism kicks in, which is already there. So you are putting another chapter in the IBC which may not even kick off from the very beginning itself. We are already seeing that, like rightly pointed out, that NCLTs are so much burden today, they are not able to decide the litigation in any case in a time-bound manner, not in a 14 days. You have already pointed out, as far as financial creditors are concerned, average time to decide Section 7 has become 1 year now, 6 months to 1 year, and in respect of operational creditor, it is from 1 year to 2 years, 400 to 600 days itself. So are we suggesting another way? On the one hand, we are discussing about fast-tracking insolvency. On the other hand, we are inserting a concept which may be alien to IBC itself. So that has been my take from the very beginning. So let's see.
The safest answer. I appreciate that also. Let me tell you the statistics about the rate of filing and the rate of approvals in the NCLT. It's actually half. The rate of filing is almost about 46% and the rate of acceptance, approvals or admission is about 22%. So this is really a tough thing that's happening in the NCLT, what Sandeepji also rightly pointed out, and I'm sure with the rising infrastructure, the better infrastructure, things will get better. I think it's now time to really understand what our distinguished friends here, the seniors here have to say and ask, because this is the most vital part of a seminar where we get the voice of the people who are actually into it. So maybe invite questions, and I'll request Didi, mic tech to me a little bit. So if you have any queries, questions, observations, suggestions, please feel free. Let's deliberate this, and maybe then we can send it to the Government of India as part of our deliberations today.
Hello. Ma'am, I have a simple question. We have been discussing this morning that NCLT is overburdened with so many cases and they are unable to take any cover in a time-bound manner. So say I am a chartered accountant in an IP. If an assignment comes to me, I prepare beforehand how many persons will I need to exclude it. Similarly, when the code was enacted 2016, didn't they visualize that if this be the case, let us try to put in more judges, let's have more resources. Why that is not the case? Why we keep on saying that NCLT is overburdened? What's the way out?
Right. So I'm sure we are seeing, so this is an observation, I'm sure we all resonate with it. Like the Supreme Court has now seen a full bench of 35 honorable judges, I'm sure our dream will come true and NCLTs and NCLATs all over the country will have its suitable judges count. Let's just hope that. And I also wanted to inform our people here that now it's time that the government is looking for NCLAT at least in all the 4 metropolitans. We know we have one in Delhi, we've opened one in Chennai, and very soon we'll have one in Kolkata, which will improve your practice and will come down the costs of litigation also, because we need not go to Delhi all the time. And we'll have one in the other part that is left. So things will improve, it is improving.
May I add something?
Yes.
It's very unfair of me to say, but part of unburdening the NCLT would also lie with the lawyers if they can avoid all frivolous litigation just to delay the NCLT process. If that can be taken as a resolution, if the lawyer decide that we will not file any frivolous litigation, then probably the NCLT burden will be a little lower.
Ma'am, I have a question. I have a few questions. In order for IBC to succeed, first of all, we should first fix that COC must have a code of conduct. But this is long awaited, because unless every stakeholder has a code of conduct excepting COC. Number 2, the empanelment system. Now, empanelment system, if you are not empaneled with the banks, you don't get anything. So therefore, if you look at the major chart, this the difference could be the infrastructure of the IP, but the major chart is not getting any job. At the same time, the IBC is increasing fees. So even the IP is not able to recover that fees, 30,000 rupees approximately. Then IPBI has become a profit center. Why profit center? Because for everything, there is a huge penalty. So, IPs are scared for even if there is a slight violation, there will be huge penalty. So therefore, there is nobody to protect these IPs. And IPVR never responds any email, excepting the fees. I mean, this is the practical problem that we are facing. There has to be some, helpline, as learned speaker already said, because it's a cooperation between these things, because the entire team has to perform. But it's not happening. And how long we will be keeping on saying that we are learning? We have already crossed the baby stage. We have to mature, or we have to accept that no, we are not able to do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Gupta had a query.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Just to answer that, if we can have patience for 15-20 minutes, I think next session, first lecture is only on this itself. And we have a senior advocate from Supreme Court who is well versed, and he will be speaking on this.
So that gives us a ray of hope. Yes, Mr. Gupta.
The previous raised certain question regarding the penalties to be imposed by the ICAI. You see, I am a CA by profession. Gupta is a company secretary by profession. But the IP who are appointed, they do not have any training about the IBC laws. So there should be some provision for them to get trained before they accept the assignment. And that is one of the reasons that they are taken or granted by the COC and the other authorities, because they do not have much experience while they are conducting their duties. Second thing, regarding adjournments. Adjournments are given without even knowing the results. The senior lawyer goes, seeks an adjournment, and the adjournments are given. And the client suffers. The delay occurs, but they are not held responsible for this. So this is one thing which needs to be considered by the IBI also, so that the cases are disposed in a timely manner.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Would you like to?
As far as your first observation is concerned, I request Mr. Subramanian to speak on that. As far as second is concerned, I just have one thing to say that now gone are those days where senior advocate appears and the judgments are given. I can tell you with a practical experience. In Section 7, no one is giving a judgment in Section 7. Court gives only one or two opportunities, and after that matters are getting admitted. So it's not, unless of course there is some substance in the objections raised by the corporate debtor. So first, of course, I will request Mr. Subramanian to speak on that.
With regard to adjournments, I would like to recite an incident which happened last week before the NCLAT. Justice Acae was heading a bench. He is going to be addressing you today. 3 lawyers, young junior lawyers, successively asked for adjournments, and he is holding the hearing bench. He has lost his hearing, so final hearing of matters. By the 4th time, he said, "If this is how you wish to conduct yourself, I am not required here." And the bench rose for the day. It sent ripples. Sandeep, you will know this happened. It sent ripples through the court, and rest assured, the next day, no lawyer took an adjournment. So it is all a question of mindset. And yes, I agree with Sandeep that now gone are those days when we could take an adjournment and walk out, etc. Now our credibility as professionals is also tested by how well we perform and how diligently we perform.
Any other questions? Yes, please.
I have a very small query. All the advocates are there. Madam, what you told is an exception. But you very well know as a lawyer that adjournments are given on asking, and this, I have seen certain cases in NCLT which we are facing, that they just go and say that there are so many matters on the list that they are not able to devote time. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you find that everything is getting adjourned. One thing. And regarding my first question, I have not got an answer. That the IP should be given proper training before they are interested in the job of registered professional. Like IBC is a new law, and like other professional CAs, CS, cost accountant, there should be some training about the law which they are going to handle, so that the delays are avoided.
Regarding the training, I am not sure, but the IP is made an IP only after it passes an exam. It is not that you have suddenly said I want to become an IP because I have been in the bank for so long. It doesn't work like that. So I am presuming probably the test should be made more comprehensive, more difficult, I am not aware of what is the training process, but it has to happen before the appointment of IBC. So, probably when he appears for the test, he should have taken a 3-month training or something like that. That can happen. Your second thing, that merely because somebody is a chartered accountant or company secretary knows more. As a banker of 35 years, I have come across chartered accountant. I have been in credit for all my life, and you can ask all the chartered accountants dealt with me. I don't find them more knowledgeable than any of my other creditors who are not a chartered. And I have qualified chartered accountants working with me who actually ask my guidance. So it is, I don't agree to that. The mere fact that you have a degree makes you more qualified. Yes, you should know. That is a different part. But having a degree doesn't make you more qualified. This is my belief. I may be wrong. The third part to say that, RPs are all powerful once they are appointed. So I'm not talking about the IRP, but once RP is there, COC has to have 90% voting power before they can even touch the RP. So to say that COC takes RP for granted is very wrong. Because we cannot. Because we keep pushing it, but we cannot take him for granted because he is now virtually the arbiter. I can't even go to the court without his help. So we don't think any of the COC takes the RP for granted.
Thank you so much. We'll take one last question and then I give the baton to Jitendraji. Yes, please.
It's a very simple question to all my heads. Now with this judgment of Suresh Reddy versus Canara Bank, can we say or presume that the nightmares of Vidarbha has been over? This is my simple question.
I think I'll give it to Sandeep.
See, I'll tell you, before this judgment also, Vidarbha was never a problem for any NCLT to admit the petition, by the way. I'll be very honest with you. But yes, now with more clarification came, we definitely expect Vidarbha was in the facts and circumstances of that case only, that has been clarified. So we don't see any problem coming. In fact, that and default principle has been there from the very beginning, whether that's innovative, whether that's E.S. Krishnamurthy judgment, that has been reiterated in this judgment itself.
That was there, but again, citing Vidarbha, many of the cases were being in limbo since long.
Yes,
in last 1 year we have seen that.
Yes, that is gone now.
And reversals were also there, not being admitted.
On the writer's side, if I wanted to favor you, yes, that judgment was useful, otherwise it was never useful.
Thank you so much. I think we really had a wonderful session which opened a lot of our holes in the mind, because that is what is required. And before I give it to Jitendraji to take this forward towards closure, I acknowledge the presence of Mr. Debayan Patra, who is the current chairman of the EIRC of ICAI. We have Mr. Sanjeev Sanghi, we have Mr. Ravi Patwa, and all the other dignitaries over there. I will now give it to Mr. Jitendra Roya to take it towards closure.
Thank you. All agree. It was definitely an exciting session. And yes, more and more we do debates on this topic. Definitely we will go forward for a better IBC. And this is, established that IBC is here to stay. So we all have to accept and work around. Maybe yes, there are bottlenecks in the judiciary, there are bottlenecks with the RPs, with the stakeholders and other partners of the other pillars of the IBC. But we have to, balance each and every aspect so that the final outcome of the IBC succeeds. With this, we come to end for a very exciting panel discussion, and I would also like to acknowledge the presence of all the SBI delegates and also thank SBI for supporting this IBC conclave, especially the GM sir, and also like to acknowledge the presence of DGM Prithvi sir, and then DGM Ramakrishna sir, along with all the other SBI personnel who are present over here and other panelists and other delegates. So with this, I would request Advocate Ashok Kumar Dhandania, please come forward and propose a formal vote of thanks for this wonderful panel discussion session. And after this, we will be immediately starting the inaugural session. Our chief guest has already arrived, and please be seated and after this session, after this.
On behalf of the organizers, it's my proud privilege to propose a vote of thanks. The panel discussion on the role of stakeholders in fast-tracking revival process was extremely informative and thought-provoking. I would like to thank Mr. Balasubramaniam, Rajan Balasubramaniam, General Manager, SBI, Samro, Kolkata, Mrs. Ramija Hakim, Advocate, Mr. Sandeep Bajaj, Advocate, for their valuable contribution to the discussion. Each of you brought a unique perspective and an in-depth understanding of your subject. I would also like to thank our moderator, Advocate Mamta Binani. She kept the discussion focused and on track and ensured that everyone had an opportunity to share their valuable thoughts. I would also like to thank the audience for their active participation. Thank you.
Thank you. Please be seated. We'll be starting the inaugural session immediately. Please request all the panelists to